Hello, hello, hello. This is the Vanilla JS podcast. I'm Chris Ferdinandi. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, I wanted to talk about the cascade, the C in CSS, and why it's awesome. So, a lot of developers, particularly those who learn JavaScript first, absolutely hate the cascade. So, if you're not familiar with the cascade, it's what the C in CSS stands for. It's cascading style sheets. In CSS, styles default to the window and cascade down to child elements. So if you had some styles attached to a button, maybe a background color, a color, and a font weight, those are going to apply to all buttons in the entire UI. For JavaScript developers who are used to being able to tightly scope variables, functions, and so on to a component, this feels like a bug. But in reality, the cascade is a feature. The cascade is what lets me keep my style sheets small, lean, and performant. It means I don't have to redeclare styles for the same element over and over again for each component that I include. Imagine having to rewrite the same styles for buttons used to submit your contact form, buttons to use for your sign-up form for a newsletter, and buttons for a call to action box. Imagine if you had to just kind of redeclare those same styles for each of those elements. Your style sheet would get really, really big really, really quickly. Isn't that absurd when you can just style a button once and get on with your life? And all this talk about how CSS is broken, but JavaScript makes so much more sense, ignores the mountain of hacks that exist in JavaScript too. JavaScript is also global by default. We use ifs, or immediately invoked function expressions, and wrapper functions to add scope to what would otherwise be global variables. And I'll include a link in the show notes to how that approach works. And for all this talk about CSS being global, you actually can scope styles when you need to. It's more or less the same way you do it in JavaScript. Let's say you have a global button style, but you want to override certain buttons to have a different background color, maybe blue instead of a default of purple. You would do this. So you would have your global button style. So you would have button, semicolon, curly bracket, background color, Rebecca purple, color white, font size, bold. And then if you wanted to override that button color just in a callout component, maybe it has a class of callout on it, you would go .callout space button, curly brackets, background color, blue. And the really nice thing about the cascade is you don't need to redeclare the color and font weight for that button if the only thing you're changing is the background color. The main button styles just cascade down. This is not a bug. This is a feature that lets you just nudge and tweak the things you need to without having to rewrite everything. It's really, really, really beautiful. I absolutely love the cascade. And if you're someone who doesn't love the cascade, I'd recommend you maybe dig into it a little bit more, because when you really understand how it works, it's an incredibly powerful tool that makes authoring for the front end so much easier. So that's it for today. If you want to finally master JavaScript, head over to vanillajsguides.com and check out my pocket guides and video courses. They're short, focused, and made for beginners. You'll learn the ins and outs of a topic in under an hour, and as a listener of the show, you can take 30% off with the code PODCAST at checkout. See you next time. Cheers.